our meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Why don't we do a quick round of introductions here before we get started? I'm J.D. Miller, I'm the board chair. To my right.
Linda Hayes, director.
Leslie James, board member.
Ellen Chorosky, board member.
Betty Johnson, liaison from Foss.
Joan Powers, liaison for South Shore Elderly Services.
Lucille Sorrentino, board member. Jenny Gerbis, outreach coordinator from Frontage.
Gordon Price, Vice Chair, Council on Aging.
Well, welcome again, everyone. Why don't we go through our November minutes? I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to go through that last day or so online. Take a second, a minute, take a look at that.
We're a little long. Also, we don't have anyone taking minutes right now, I don't think. We do have it being recorded, but.
Linda, is the men's breakfast, is that a regular
Very.
monthly occurrence?
It is.
It is. About how many people roughly?
Roughly 12 to 20. You know, sometimes it does depend on the speaker, they
Yeah.
seem to sort of
Or weather, or
care, you know, what
Mhm.
we're getting, so. I'm not sure if we decided to skip January, but,
Do they usually have it here?
no, we
The
have
restaurant?
really started using Widows Walk pretty much.
yeah, the North
okay.
River, Widows Walk.
Okay.
We had done it before,
That works out fine. Not
sometimes
bad.
we alternated, and the only,
Is it a specific day of the month?
yes, it used to be the first Monday, and honestly, we did find after a while that we're just being ready for the first Monday. So now, we're trying the first Tuesday, last few months. Seems fine, they don't really know what they
Well, I wasn't here last month, I was away. The form of the grant apparently ended up significantly less money,
Well, a little less.
a little less.
They cut
For
it.
any particular,
Well, because of the state
State budget.
Oh,
state
okay.
money. I mean, they got some back, they wanted to cut it more originally, and they allocated.
But every little bit counts, so they're taking a little bit away, so.
Mm.
For me, it happened to matter this time.
Anybody have any comments on minutes? Do we hear a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
We have a second. Did I get a second then? Is that Lucille raising her hand?
I'll raise my hand.
Okay. All right, great. Gonna hand it over to Linda.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. You note I actually was short in the feasibility study senior center site location category at the top of my report in terms of the search for the OPM. It does so happen, I spoke with Al Bangert today and can add to that a little bit. So last month, I believe, well, we knew they were putting out a request for an OPM, and which.
Owner's project manager.
And then I think it was Karen Campfield dropped by saying, you know, she had just met with him, and it was out. But the truth is, it's not quite out, or it's going out, or it's just, it was not on our website yet, so it should be on the Town of Scituate website. But it also, and we questioned, you know, where does it go? How do people know to apply for that? So they send it out to various sort of professional architectural firms and OPM sites or organizational sites, partly, and otherwise we'll put it on our website. So that is really just going out, but a preliminary timetable would seem to be that we hope to still receive the proposals from, or applications for project managers this month into January, and then the next meeting of the Public Building Commission is currently scheduled for January 19th, and that is when they would hope to interview candidates for that position and make a selection shortly thereafter. And then it would go to the Board of Selectmen to approve for the contract, and they're just thinking that would be early February. Funds are already set aside for this, significant funds for this position. Once that person is hired, they would send out the request for services, write up and send out the request for services for the architectural firm hired to do the sort of preliminary site design work. Now, in the meantime, he does have in his timetable that we would ask at town meeting for approval for the funds for that initial phase 1 design that the architect would produce. So there would be something going before that town meeting in April, not the whole kit and caboodle, but initial funding for the architectural work, so that's April. But it's possible the architect's not even selected yet, that could maybe not happen until May. So then, unfortunately, I think, once that architect is brought in, which might not be until May, as I just said, they still need the time to formulate and deliver that schematic design, budget, cost, everything for the building, and then that would go to special town meeting, which we know just happened November 14th, so that's not super cool. But anyway, let's say it's in early November, maybe it could be earlier. Then if approved, it goes to the voters for a debt exclusion override in possibly January. Could that be earlier? Hard to say whether December's a good time for that or not, but. And at least in terms of a vote, even if it's in January, absentee ballots, people can be collected and informed and alerted to the need to do that if they are away. So hopefully it doesn't reduce our volume of population of interest. Anyway, and then, so then we're actually, that's so easy how a year goes by, but once the architects, then awarded a contract for the actual completion of the design, and then I don't know how soon it goes to actually a building timetable.
Just a question, wasn't the cost decided on the cost?
Through the feasibility study?
Oh, no, not the feasibility. So it's just the cost of the feasibility study they're gonna be voting on?
No,
No.
the
Cost
cost
to hire-
estimates, those were cost
to hire the owner's
estimates.
project manager.
So now the actual architect that is hired to do the more complete design,
I thought that was done.
that was estimated.
That's all, yeah.
Okay.
That was an estimate based on what they found at each of the sites.
Mhm.
So basically it has to be done again,
Mhm.
more or less, but only on one site.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Yes.
any of these sequence of events contingent upon a decision being made about what to do with the gates, or is that just gonna be left?
Well, not at this time, but I wonder if that wouldn't be a topic for discussion at the Public Building Commission. I think possibly that would go to that, and also maybe, I don't mean to say offline, but I'm sure we'd have an opportunity, as we had brought up with John, to ask about that.
Yep.
And talk about that more and try to get them maybe to come forward with
Some definition.
But the OPM would want to be involved. They would want the OPM to be involved in those discussions too, I imagine. But, don't know.
The operations manager is involved in more than one building, and
Well, not necessarily, but if,
No.
if the project is linked, then they may. But so will we. So, of course, Alice says, of course, they would want someone from the board there. I would be there in these talks, and I don't know what else. The Public Building Commission already exists. It's not a formulated committee, it's already there.
of interest when it was determined, I think it's about the Public Buildings Committee involved with the school project, certainly involved with the public safety project. But I'll maybe address that later in the new business. I did meet with 2 selectmen this week, and they can basically just confirm what Linda just said. I did get confirmations from both of them that there will be a warrant article, which, I think they were hemming and hawing on it until maybe a week or 2 ago at Springtown meeting to actually hire an architect to do initial drawings. But been assured by both of them that will be on a warrant now. And I said, "Oh, who writes that?" And he said, "Oh, we'll write it." So I think maybe Linda and people need to stay
We'll write it,
in touch to
yeah.
make sure that December 19th is the deadline.
Well, I asked
for
about
warrants.
that, because when I'd seen that date, I thought, wow, okay, what do we need to do to get on there, if we wanted to be on there? But he said, actually, that's more for public,
Oh.
and the selectmen can make a change and add
Okay.
anytime
Oh, good.
they want up to
Okay.
that time, so that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, that's the latest.
Very good.
Our phone system's actually being installed here on Monday, which is nice. We'll see what that brings. We're getting just new phone stations, a phone in the kitchen, which we haven't had, and it's very linked to computer, so you can actually listen to your voicemails and things on the computer if you want to. And what we've not had before is the LCD display, which shows caller ID, which really
Incoming calls.
we have really wanted to have that. We lose some calls, we miss some calls. We got a choice between direct inward dialing, which we're not getting right now, and it's going to hunt for us. So there is some automated attendant, which Jenny has been our voice. Maybe I shouldn't give that secret away, but it's such a nice voice that we're probably going to employ her to do that again. Anyway, so we're excited about that. I did also have to complete my budget with I had to do it so fast in November. I mean, I was on vacation for a bit in November, and then we had Thanksgiving, and basically my budget was due December 1st. So, and I am meeting next week with the town manager, with the acting town manager, and Nancy Coles. So, I'll give you a copy before that, go over a couple of things. But I think it was, relatively level funded, but I made some requests, and I think they'll be positively heard, looked at. Senior tax work-off program, I need to get to that too, but I've had some new applications received. I did get one department who signed on, which is great. The library's taking maybe even an extra one than they've had in the past. So there is some movement. I have just really started to think about how to place everybody come January.
You've got
We will
people,
have-
you've got a list of people that are waiting. right?
I've got a long list.
Okay.
And because of that, this past season, I guess I would say we had 2 seniors working directly with the COA, and I will have 3, if not 4, doing it this time. So I just have to have jobs for them, obviously, account for 100 hours. So that is good, though. Some meetings generally, which happens a lot this time of year, of course. Jenny and Mara now trying to, at least once a month, to stay on top of what they're doing, which is a lot. Staff meeting, department head meeting. A lot of my day, I just realized, oftentimes you just need to be around and have some conversation, some social conversation, which is important, and of course I love to do. But also there's, concerns, complaints, questions that come in, sometimes drop-ins. So a lot of times that sort of steals the time out of my day that I might have spent elsewhere. But calls that come in, transportation, sometimes not always black and white. So we have had some issues regarding that. Cleaning the kitchen, for that matter. Assisting speakers that come in with technology, which is never as straightforward as we like. Check-in problems, scan cards. Although I do really appreciate, and I think our mobile scanner has really served its purpose lately, because we are everywhere now. Yesterday, I had to be at Gates, and Lisa was going to the community building, so we only have one scanner So anyway, she took it, but we have more people down there. But we are using gates, I guess I could update you there, for finally, we are putting one class, Zumba, which is a dance class and needed a hard floor, so that
Love the
has
gyms.
been really hard won, to be honest, but we had nowhere else to put it. We've moved them 3 or 4 times. They've used the library community room. They even did once in November. They did it all summer. We needed to make it free because of that, because of the library protocol, but anyway, they did a really nice job doing over the gym floor and gates. It's huge, and I won't put you on, I'm sure. So now I think we've got that through February. So that's nice. That's very nice. It's only one class, and we'd like to actually use it more if we could, but one thing at a time. But it does involve getting a key from the police station, and then going there, and then opening, and then going back and locking, unless I decide that the instructor really wouldn't mind doing this, but, and then bringing the key back to the police station, which you know where that is.
What was the problem with the library? Isn't that built, couldn't that continue at the library? Could we continue that building, that room?
Well, that takes something out of their programming
Oh,
consistently, and frankly, I don't think, they're not in it for that, and I don't blame them. We asked for that as a stopgap, and it's great to
Right.
know it's there, and I think they'd be amenable to the periodic use,
mm-hmm.
but a straight general use. Plus, our instructor needs to get paid,
Okay.
and we can't pay her without influx, so.
Is the Maritime Building?
Well, we were using the Maritime Building, so that's one of the places they've been running all over to. But honestly, as much as everybody loves that building, the parking is not only horrible, because it's really not friendly for senior walking or parking, but they bring all the boats back into it, and I mean, it was a,
Yeah,
you know,
it takes away a lot.
probably some near misses.
I was there tonight, just to sit around, you know, just to take some time. It was probably like 15 parking spots. I mean, where we would ordinarily be parking along, you know, along the shoreline there, it's all boats.
Boats.
They're beautiful boats, but.
Still, it's great as
Their
that-
winter home.
It's great in the summer, it gets very
Yeah.
unfriendly in the winter, and usually we close the building from
Yeah, they
November
close
to
it.
March or April,
Yeah.
but, so it was
Still
really not a
beautiful, though.
candidate, but we would take it if we had to. We do, I don't know if everybody's aware, we pick up a Panera donation on Monday nights. Betty is here, she's one of our volunteers. I go once a month. We have a few other volunteers. We close at 9 on a Monday night, and that's when we're supposed to go pick it up. So we do have a lot of people doing that, and it's our favorite pickup. I mean, they're great, and it's good stuff. But that's late to be doing that. It's a long way, but it is nice. I think somebody did forget last week. You know, we called them Tuesday morning and said, oops, you know, our volunteer must have forgotten. And it was still sitting there, so somebody did run and grab it. And then we have volunteers who are here putting it, packaging it and putting it all out for Tuesdays, which, you know, it's gone, obviously, by now. But it is nice. We get Shaw's on Monday, and that is a couple who picks that up and then brings it in, and that's significant too.
Panera in Hingham?
We go to Hanover,
Hanover.
yeah, right next to Trader Joe's, so.
Mm.
If I plan right, if any of us, you know, can do a little shopping at Trader Joe's and get in there just in time, it's nice. Betty gave me the idea, you sit and have a little cup of tea, and they're very sweet. Get some work done.
And they put it in the car for you.
And then some of them put it in the car for us, it's awesome. So just the fact that we're out past our bedtime is the one, but otherwise it's great.
That's good.
Yeah. So the legislative breakfast was November 17th, which Helen had attended, and I was there, of course. That was right after I got back from vacation, which was great. It was really nice. Marshfield did a nice job. We all know they have a nice facility. They had an army of volunteers manning the kitchen and setting the tables and picking up after everybody. It was really
It was very nice.
very impressive.
I like the computer room, where all of them are on there in the
Well, the
computers.
computer room in Marshfield, yeah.
And I understand they're going up and out,
Mhm.
and a lot of Scituate people are going there.
Mhm.
So,
Yes to all those things, yeah. Yeah, they are putting on a second floor. I mean, they've had the one floor model, which isn't ideal, we've heard from architects in my own personal experience. I like the 2-floor model, but they are going to add now, so they already have 12,000 square feet, and now they're going up. But yeah, it was well done. Also, the speakers, David Stevens from the MCOA, who's wonderful always. He's great, he works well with our politicians and he was advocating basically for our formula grant and how they have been working very hard to increase it to $12 in Eldon by 2020, which not only did Governor Baker at the Council on Aging Conference say in October, he really pledged his support for that number. You know, all of our reps, they were all supportive of us. So Jim Cantwell, the rep from Plymouth, Josh Cutler from Duxbury, Pembroke. So they all spoke to that and how valuable the senior centers are for everyone. So it was a good meeting. Pickleball was the same day, the intergenerational pickleball with the high school students, which was awesome. I think we ended up with 11 of us. I did go up and play. I had to be reminded, I kept having to ask how to keep score because it's been a while. I forgot. I have Pauline Young on the other. I'm sorry, I forget. Because I had a high school student and they had only really just started their unit, so the seniors really looked good. They sort of took, they were serious. But it was fun, and then even better, not even better. So one of the students, because I think we ended up with maybe an odd number, and he was just as happy to use his video camera and do a couple of interviews, so he didn't need to play after all. So he did do a little YouTube video, which was put out on both YouTube and I think our cable TV. I sent it to the cable. Which was nice, and also the nutrition classes in the home ec department, they brought us down for a nice nutritious snack, which was delicious, wasn't it? So it was a great day, and they want to do it again, so we'll do it again in spring. What else? Aging Mastery is over for the 10 weeks. We had a little graduation breakfast also at Widows Walk. So much like the men's breakfast, which, you know, they've handled nicely. The thing is, we pay them we don't. The guys pay $8 when we use it for the men's breakfast, $8 a breakfast, which if they came here was $3, and it was something we put on and could do easily. But just, I've said this before, just because we can cook doesn't mean we should. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's nice to bring them out to a real thing, and they don't seem to mind. They're happy to pay the money, and it's a nice setting. Also, what was I going to say? Oh, so we had the Aging Mastery breakfast there too, which was very nice. I have just finally completed the purchase of the iPads and covers through the SEF funding, the Scituate Education Foundation funding for that Seniors Connect program. So a couple people here and a few others have signed up. I have still space because I'm trying to have 12. So scheduling training for that in January with our favorite professional trainer, and then making the matches with the kids in the interactive club for your one-on-one for 8 weeks. So that's great, that's finally starting.
Good.
Upcoming, our next seniorities, which happens to be tomorrow, we're interviewing Frank Gay from GATRA, so that should be good, I think. He's happy to do it. He actually was supposed to come last week, but has had a cough. So he's afraid he wasn't going to get through it without coughing. But I think, you know, there's some mystery behind what GATRA is still, no matter how many times we might try to explain it, and there's just the COA and the sloop and everything, so I just figured maybe right from the horse's mouth would be good for people to hear. And then after that, we're going to schedule Chief Murphy for emergency preparedness and what they do in the fire department and what we do. That will also be later in December. So otherwise, we did have a little subcommittee meeting on events and marketing coming up for the board, which Lucille can talk about later. But hoping maybe we can start meeting beginning in January, because we are really doing a parade float. Really. So no backing out, and we have some ideas, so we'll talk about that later. I guess otherwise Jenny, nicely enough, is here, and everybody does know her, our outreach coordinator, so she can talk about her. Okay. Our transportation numbers, I guess I might just mention, you know, for November had been 669 in terms of all the total rides that we do, both in Scituate and out of town. Also, and I didn't mention this, during the month of November, we had 5 out-of-town trips. I'm just going to mention a few of those because we have one of our tax work-off volunteers who helps out here and at the front desk is also organizing trips for us. And she is enthusiastic and good at it. So, we did send a group to the Newport Mansions, which, probably for our vans, we probably don't wanna do too much out of state, actually, we really wanna stay in Massachusetts for that. If we do use our GATRA vans, they prefer that, actually. I don't think we did, I think we used the 12-person, but just still as a precedent. We went to the Boston Christmas Festival, they went to Rentham shopping. What's become very popular and should be, it's an easy ride, and a beautiful, wonderful concert, but going to Duxbury to the Ellison Center, which is part of the Social Conservatory, and they have a free concert twice a month, or at least once a month. But they had a blues show and they did a holiday show Tuesday, which 12 people went to, so very nice. Jean wants us to cut back just a bit, because it does take, extra drivers and a lot of organization and coordination. In the winter, you never know with the weather, so the fewer things we have to cancel if the weather happens, the better. But anyway, that was really great. So we're busy, needless to say. Oh, I guess she listed that here too on her report. So after that, I'll let Jenny
Okay.
do her own thing,
Yeah,
tell you all about it.
thank you. So I've been working with the folks at my senior center, our database, and I've always noticed that I'm always losing numbers. Like I log most every phone call that comes in or that goes out. And there's different, categories and, subcategories. And what I've found, it's a number that I can't really catch, but I can't really, I can catch it, but I can't really say that what it was. So if someone calls up and I put the category in as, say, SNAP food stamps, but then we get talking and there's 2 or 3 other,
Changes the category.
things come up, I can add the category, but then I lose the number. So the category is still only 1, even though we've talked about 3 things, and I've either sent out 3 things or they've come in and then we do 3 applications and stuff like that. So I talked to them about it, but it's not really a number that you can add. See, because I see that when I do the, so I've done, say last month, I saw 31 people. We discussed 58 different types of services, categories, but then 60, so then there were like, a total interactions were 66. So those numbers I really can't count for, except that I see them on the computer and I'm like trying to explain to you guys. So in the past, I've just kind of let it go, but I want, there is a lot more going on. So that's just how that is. But I wanted to also discuss some things that we've been working on. So Norman and I, mostly Norman, we had a show that we put on that's been on Channel 10. My mom told me it's quite lovely. But he did well over 60 Part D drug searches. And he only would come, he would come down, folks would fill their application, and he and I would, go up to the computer. It's on the Medicare website. People can do it on their own, but it is difficult. And you wanna save the most money that you can, and that's basically what he does. So he would just send out the results. If they had questions, then it kind of filtered to me, because he was doing the hard work, and I was just doing this is gonna be great. CVS, definitely. Walgreens. So that ended. I spoke with him today. He sent his final report for the year today, and they were very pleased with all the results from all the Shine workers, all the Shine counselors, and they do that for free. Even though, we know that Norman is a lawyer, so we get a little legal advice on the side. But he.
Do you know, excuse me, but do you know if he was busier, or if you were busier this year than last year, for example?
He was definitely busier.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people are happy to stay, but we always suggest to
Come
just
and
give
do
it
a
a
review.
shot.
Yeah,
Just to get a review.
Yep.
People get hung up on one type of name that they like, and if that is not if that's not the place where you're gonna save the most money,
Right.
we always encourage you to jump ship,
Yep.
and to go with what's cheapest.
Yep.
He sent a very comprehensive letter explaining the reason to go with one and not the other, and He's an amazing man.
Right.
He really is.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know,
he
his
did
letters
most of the
are,
work, yeah.
and they're not form letters.
No, I know
Each
that.
person
Yeah.
gets their own.
I know.
Me too.
I know,
It was to me.
Yeah, right, it was to you, it wasn't just to.
Yeah, he's good.
Yes, he is, he's excellent. Just wanted to throw it out there and remind everyone that I am a notary public. I got quite a few, pension reviews, folks that are home, that are receiving a pension, they need proof, so I would go out. I do home visits for that, cause a lot of the folks are, you know, a little older, aren't getting out, aren't driving, would need to come, you know, get a ride here.
Right.
They've got other things to do. I'm like, I'll just swing by on my way home or whatever, you know, carry it, bring it with me, and they appreciate that too, so that's good, just to throw that out there. Wanted to stress, the food pantry, they have extended hours. They're not only on Tuesday mornings, but now they're on Thursday
Thursday.
afternoon. Okay, yeah, there you go, Thursday from 3:30 to 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's open to anyone in Scituate, any person in Scituate.
Is that temporary for the holidays?
No, they're doing that now, yeah, and they're over at the Masonic Temple,
Yep.
That's
Countryway.
Countryway?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
I forget which number it is.
Yep.
But just want to stress that there's also, for lower income folks, you can come and apply for SNAP food stamps. I always encourage folks to apply for that if they think they're eligible, or I always say, you know, apply. The worst thing they can do is say no. And the good thing about applying for food stamps is once you get on food stamps, that enables you to get a discount on both your electric bill, and if you have gas, it's a 25% discount on your gas. So that applies for anyone that's on, you know, fuel assistance, food stamps, Mass Health Standard. You get a discount on both those utilities. Been really busy with fuel assistance.
I was gonna ask, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that time.
It is, it's the time of year, and we've had an increase in some of the emergencies. The Social Community Action, which runs the program, they have been busy with a lot of emergencies too. So we're, you know, addressing that and doing what we can and meeting with people as soon as we can to get that addressed and get them the services and the benefit that they're able to get.
Do you think you know off the top of your head what the percentage of younger
You know, I always.
clients we might help with that
I
versus
always
the
ask-
older?
With fuel? you said?
With fuel.
Yeah, I always ask them to give me those numbers at the end of the year, because we have a breakfast at the beginning, and I always ask them, and they're like, yeah, I'll get back to you. And I don't know, not
So we
quite
don't keep
sure.
the record.
What happens, what tends to happen is, once I've, you know, filled an application with a client, the next year it gets automatically generated and sent to the client. And if they fill it out on their own, and they don't
They
need
don't
me,
know
or they
about
feel,
it.
I don't know about it. But see,
You
those are the
facilitated
numbers.
it the first year
I
possibly, but
oftentimes do it,
subsequent.
yeah. And then sometimes people just come in, everything's complete, I look at it and I say, it looks good to me, and they just wanna like that check. I'm like, yeah, it looks good, we'll send it down. So, but we've been, we've had a significant, a number of new clients, and, you know, then the folks that are aware of it and that are like, just need like a little bit of help and hands to do that. I know Laura has started a new, Buried in Treasures for Beginners for Clutter and Hoarding Behavior. It's peer run. It's an 8-week program and it's starting, they've started a new one. It's very successful. It meets here. And
That's
we're
the
gonna have
peer one
meet-
meeting here, or the Suzanne-led one is the Wednesday nights here?
the Wednesday nights, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, the Buried in Treasures with Suzanne, yeah.
The
So she
peer-led
does
one meets
someplace
somewhere
else.
Yeah.
So we just got a new, notification on that, which is great.
Yeah.
And.
I'm gonna make a referral, I mean, it is open and it does meet
Right.
on Wednesdays, it should go through
Yeah.
Laura just so that they're.
Right, and then, one of the last things, I know that's kind of, a stressful time for everybody. where I've been in school and was studying elder abuse significantly this past semester. And I just wanted to make aware that there is and I heard you guys talking about it too, there is a elder abuse hotline phone number here. We have this, and it filters to South Shore Elder Services. So the types of abuse that they address, physical, sexual, emotional abuse, caretaker neglect, financial exploitation, and self-neglect. I spoke with somebody today, and they are aware of something, and they told me about it, and they didn't want to tell me who the family was, what was going on, and it's completely anonymous. When you call the phone number, it's anonymous. And all I just said was, what does your gut tell you? If your gut is telling you that you're seeing something, or you're feeling like someone is, not taking their meds, not, staying healthy, not staying clean, if that is something that is not typical of that person, make the phone call. What they do is they triage it, and they can either, they screen it in or they screen it out, and then they would send someone out, very supportive, very nice, guiding them, so maybe they need some counseling, maybe they just, need somebody to talk to. And sometimes it's, caregiver stress is involved in that as well, that you read about and you see that. And it was interesting, I was over at the fax office, and they have a meditation app that's free for iPhones and iPads, and sometimes that might just, be something that someone needs, a little downtime for themselves to recharge. So I figured, we'd put that out there, and that's my
Do I
day.
have that?
Yeah, right? I'm here, everybody. We got the free Wi-Fi here. Download that
Pretty neat.
Yeah, the meditation apps are excellent. So yeah, that was my week.
Jenny, a question on the food pantry.
Yeah.
Is there a screening process to assess person's eligibility or need, or is it just you walk in and say?
Yeah, the woman barber, she's excellent. They do have an application process, but anyone can go. And then you go through, Joan might even be able to answer this a little easier, the process of, you write out the different things that you like and that you don't like. The families get, I think it's a $20 or $30 voucher from the Scituate Marketplace, because they don't have freezers and refrigerators. That's, instead of doing that, they give you a voucher, and you go to the marketplace, you purchase your stuff, they take the receipt, staple it to the voucher, and send it back to Barbara. She looks at it, and, you can't have alcohol or cigarettes. There's a 3 strikes, you're out with that. And, I mean, it's excellent, and they've been able to get more volunteers, so they're open another day. That's great. Yeah.
And I had heard that there's a possibility that they would like to find a bigger location, that they
Yeah.
can stress for space there.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
absolutely want to know.
Yeah, you're right.
Is there a specific day or time that drop-offs are made?
Right, a half an hour before, is it Tuesdays from 9 to 10, and then I believe the pantry opens at 10:30. It's in our newsletter.
Yeah, it's usually posted outside
Yeah.
Scituate Lodge too.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And Kim Stewart wanted everyone to know that Community Christmas has moved to the farm over on 3A, and they'll be housed there from now on, yeah.
I was there yesterday.
Yeah.
I could swear you were walking into a Toys R Us.
Oh, that's awesome,
Yeah,
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful.
No, we're not.
Right across from the Sunoco gas
It's
station.
the,
Oh,
oh, Scituate
where,
25.
Animal shelter.
Next door to the animal
Yeah,
shelter.
next door to the
Yeah,
animal
okay, I know.
shelter,
I knew
right?
that was,
Yeah.
but I didn't know. the-
Animal
Yeah.
I
shelter,
thought they had a house.
community
It is a
Christmas,
house.
Yeah.
public
It's the
safety
farm
building.
house.
Yeah, but
So
they
that's
had a
what
house
they need.
someplace else.
Oh, well,
No, they had the
They gave
KFC
up wherever
before.
they
Right, they had the KFC for Community Christmas, yeah. That was Jenna's question. They both are.
And that occurred through
That's a
the,
saying, that's a bad saying.
they were able to purchase that building through the generosity of Susan
Susan
Fitton's
Fitton.
Yes, yes.
foundation or.
Yes, yeah,
Well,
yeah, so, good work,
Mm.
good work.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Why don't we move on to some liaison reports. John, Board of Selectmen is not here. Joan, what's going on at South Shore Resources?
Quite a bit. The Tuesday
Busy
meeting,
time of year.
yeah, Tuesday meeting at November 7th, the board congratulated Sandra and her team for guiding us through the situation with the fire. No fire damage was, but there was smoke damage.
Oh, that's
the whole
right, they had that
place.
fire, yeah.
So, but all went good. They didn't shut down, but there were a lot of things, we didn't have our board meeting there and things like that. Because they already had a disaster plan it ahead of time anyway, so they just followed it. Eric Mahoney, a senior partner at Daniel Dennis Company, presented the South Shore Elderly Service annual audit, and the audit was good and accepted. 3 veterans on the board had an article in the Otis Notice, which is a veterans newsletter. Ren Myers and Sandra went to their first retiree event at the Handsome Air Base. People from Braintree, Cohasset, Norwell, Scituate, and Quincy attended. They've been doing a lot with the veterans. Also, they had a good event in Hingham at the Veterans Town Hall meeting on October 26th. On December 5th, which is a Tuesday, there were updates from Mass Health, and there's continually changes every time we meet. There's changes going on with Mass Health. A contract was signed with the veterans on home care. They weren't doing much with home care, and veterans, a lot of veterans didn't know about it.
There's very little that's offered for veterans.
Yeah, so they encourage veterans to get home care, especially where it keeps them home and it's less expensive. And at every meeting, there's always a monthly financial detail done by the finance committee. And then I went to December 12th, was a board anniversary training on December 12th, and it started with a breakfast, and it was an excellent training and information. Reports on the different services and where the federal government and Commonwealth of Massachusetts money goes. And I can leave these with Linda if she wants to make copies for people, because it really shows you the agencies, where the money goes, who's in control of what. And so I can leave these and you can have copies made if you want, if the board is interested. They had an organization chart. They have 150 employees. Detailed reports were given by the different directors. This was really great and informative. They explained what these duties are and how many employees are in each department. They had a fact sheet for the board and advisory committee explaining their duties. And this is another thing you might want to have copies. These are all the department heads.
Board chart for South Shore Service?
Each one gave a detailed report, what they do, and how many employees they have in each one. So you can have, give you an idea of how much is going on at South Shore Elderly Services.
A lot of services that we're not aware of.
Right, there's a lot that
Yeah, there's a
That
lot
we're
going
not
on.
aware of.
Well, we had both, we had Bobby Kay come and then
Yep.
also Donna Crowell, and I mean, both
Yep.
talked quite a while about what they do. It is so-
And Christine, who was one of the directors, is from Scituate. She's really great. Right now, she's part-time because she's got 2 babies, 2 kids, but she's gonna be going full-time. Dan Marcy was the speaker. Here's an information technology status and roadmap was presented by Dan with a PowerPoint show. He works for MyTech Solution and has been doing this for 18 years. He oversees all the computers and technical devices. Explained in detail, and this is what this was. This is a copy of the PowerPoint he had. Some of it you have to really know what's going on with technology, but it was really interesting. So he oversees all that. He explained in detail how he checks everything for the elderly services and does a great deal at night in the building. He told us about the history of the equipment and the upgrades from 201 to 217. During the fire, with all the smoke, the system didn't shut down, but they did have to do a lot of cleanup. He also does the employee training and development with all the equipment. And he gave us a tour of the room with all the IT systems, which was amazing, of the stuff. I don't know how he knows where everything is, every phone.
Where it's
everything.
plugged in.
Really, really interesting. And then, still need more volunteers, Meals on Wheels, and they had a big thing all about Meals on Wheels. And then just want to make the people know, there's no community dinner, because it's Christmas Eve, so.
Oh, okay, that's why.
No
There
December?
will be one in January.
Okay. Very good. Betty, what's going on with FOSS?
FOSS just had a meeting a couple of days ago, our December meeting. We're winding up the year. We had a very successful year. The holiday craft fair on December 2nd was remarkably successful, considering that there were something like 13 other fairs going on. We talked about perhaps changing the date next year.
Yes.
That's a busy first weekend.
Right, there were plans for a spaghetti dinner in April, and of course a golf tournament, and there'll be lots of stuff going on in 2018. There was a lot of discussion about FOSS members having trouble wrapping their heads around the fact that the Board of Selectmen has made a choice without considering what perhaps members have been working toward for a long time. There's a level of dissatisfaction and uneasiness, I guess, about what's going on with that. People are unhappy, and people that I talk to are only, I guess everybody I know is a FOSS member, so we have about 450 members now. And that's about it.
My only advice is to be as linked as possible with what the Senior Center and the Council on Aging Board are doing as far as an organization goes. And then we appear, teamwork makes the dream work. I mean, it's just, we need to be considered sort of one entity with factions who do this and factions who do that, and
I think
that's
people
the
are concerned
answer.
about how much it's gonna cost.
Oh.
How much the cost is gonna be.
Oh.
It was an expensive option, and the cost in terms of time, because it looks like it's gonna be located behind an empty building. How much is that gonna delay?
Those are all of our questions.
Money, time,
Yeah.
cooperation, coordination, all those things that members aren't seeing, and there's a level of uneasiness, I guess, that's the best way I can describe it. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. That's all, for us.
Very good, okay. We're living that, I think. So we wanted to spend some time, Caitlin, welcome.
Sorry.
You came in, it's okay. We knew you were on your way. We wanted to take some time to have Caitlin bring some of her expertise and experience from her work, in effect, to tell us a little bit about an age-friendly or the age-friendly initiatives that are out there.
And because we would like to do this and initiate this
community.
as a senior center,
Yeah.
as a council on aging, to have the board's help, to have everybody understand a direction we would like to go, and it's good timing between dementia-friendly, which is one aspect, and age-friendly in general, and there's different domains and, components that,
Oh,
I mean, I had heard Caitlin speak about this over a year ago. So really interested in just making our community more aware of what, I'm sorry.
They're all
Yeah.
in the packet.
Okay,
What's
So
that?
there's packets, there's 3 items in each packet.
Oh,
No, it goes, the whole thing goes.
okay, we get to keep it all, so all right,
Okay.
just keep passing. So you gotta
So
hold up.
here's a packet.
Well, I thought I would, we can just sort of have a conversation about it, but I thought I'd give you some resources to sort of,
Sure.
you can take with you, they're sorted, but there's 3 items. Okay. So anyway, Linda will help you
Thank you.
So these materials are a combination of things from the World Health Organization as well as AARP, who are both partners on age friendliness. So the slide, there's just a couple of slides at the top of your packet, and so just to try to tell you a little bit more about what an age-friendly community is and sort of what does it mean. Back in 2006, the World Health Organization recognized sort of that the globe was aging, and in addition to global aging, there was sort of trends towards people moving back to urban centers and sort of this sort of change in how communities are comprised. And in addition to that sort of move back to urban centers, there was also just this emphasis on people aging in community, which we know is true, sort of people wanting to stay in their communities. And so they felt like they really needed to put together a framework for communities to help themselves think about what do we need to do as a community to be prepared for this change. In terms of more seniors in our communities, people wanting to stay home rather than go to institutions, and perhaps people coming back to town centers and communities to age in place. So they gathered a number of experts from around the world, and they developed this framework which includes 8 domains. You'll see there's a flower image on the second slide there at the bottom of the front page that gives you an idea of what the domains are. There's also in your packet a more detailed description of those domains that you can read at your leisure. But if you look at that flower, if you can't read it, I'll just sort of give you a sense of what's in there. But it's, you know, things like housing, transportation, social participation, respect and inclusion, volunteering and civic engagement, employment, outdoor spaces and buildings. So really, if you think about those things, they're age-friendly, but they're also just people-friendly. So we think about an age-friendly community as it's the impetus for it and sort of the rationale behind it is to think about aging. But really what it means is it's an opportunity for communities to take stock of themselves and sort of think about how are they functioning, how are they laid out, as a way to promote an inclusive community. So communities where everybody can participate and everybody can physically get around the community. And in addition to that, there's opportunities for people to participate. So the purpose of it really is to develop inclusive and accessible community environments so that people can, you know, stay healthy, participate, and sort of maintain their quality of life and level of respect as they age. So that's sort of the rationale behind it. And that, if you flip around to the second back of that first page, that sort of image is sort of another way of talking about the rationale. So we know that people, you know, individuals have their own physical capacity, their own individual capacity, but that capacity is really promoted and supported if their physical environment allows them to maintain that level of individual capacity. We also know that their social environment also, you know, helps them maintain that level of individual capacity. So really it's not just about, you know, helping individual people, but really providing an environment that allows people to remain engaged, to remain healthy outside the walls of their home. The bottom of that page is just a very, very rough figure that sort of shows the population of Scituate age 60 and older.
Okay.
Sorry, I did this
So
very quickly.
that's Scituate, that's sort of a projection for Scituate, yes?
It is. So
Okay.
that shows you in 2010 that there were about 4,300 people age 60 and over in Scituate. And then we have, in Massachusetts, we have 4 sets of projections made publicly available to us. Some done by the Metro Area Planning Council at MAPC, and the other 2 are done at the Donahue Institute at UMass. So basically I just took those publicly available projections and mapped out what it looks like in 2020 and 2030. And Lynn, I wasn't sure if you knew what the current town census says about the number of 60 people, 60 plus, or just general?
5,000 maybe.
Yeah, so if you look at that 2020 figure, you're looking at, you know, I listed all 4 projections to give you a sense of how they differ, which they're pretty close, which is not true in all situations. But you look at 2020, which is not too far from now, and we're looking at between 5,400 and 5,600, so that's, sounds like we're kind of on the road there. So then looking out to 2030, you're looking at, you know, between 6,000 and 6,600 seniors in Scituate. So anyway, so it's, you know, when we talk about why it's important now and why this is something that communities should consider today, and to move on, it is really, you know, think figures like this to sort of indicate that, you know, your community's changing, and in order for it to remain a healthy place for people to both grow up but also grow old, it's important to really think about, take a step back and look at how things are done and how we can make them a little more age-friendly. So that last slide on the back gives you a sense of the process. So this process really is, there's kind of some there's a couple ways you can go about it, but essentially a community decides, yes, we'd like to be more age-friendly. That's something that's important to us. We'd like to commit to doing that. And there's two, sort of the AARP model, and there's also the World Health Organization model. They're not, they have some various differences, but we can get into that later. Essentially, if the community decides that they want to do this, they typically get the buy-in from a town administrator or board of selectmen, sort of the leadership in the community. So it requires somebody from the community, an organization or an individual or a group of residents, to be sort of the champions of this and say, hey, we want to do this. But then the next step would be to sort of organize themselves, go to the town leadership and express the interest in doing something like this. There is an application process that includes a letter of support from the town leader. So I think I brought a letter. It might have gotten swept up in my packet, but it's an example letter that I had brought. But essentially, they provide a letter that says, yes, we know there's, this is something that the community would like to do, and we support them in doing it. That letter is then submitted to either AARP or to the World Health Organization. If it's submitted to AARP, they come out and they give you a certificate and sort of, say, go forth and become age-friendly. This last slide sort of shows you that it is a process. It's not something that you just decide to become and are immediately become. The work involved is really around putting together, usually it's a steering committee or a group of residents, and it also, most successfully includes people from other sectors in the town government or leadership, so people from public safety or public works, other organizations and nonprofits in the community coming together, sort of the more interdisciplinary it is, the better. And they sort of take a look at those 8 domains. So they look at the transportation in Scituate, they look at the housing in Scituate, and they sort of assess, and there's all kinds of ways you can conduct the assessment, but sort of say, what are we good at? What's strong about our community and what's not so strong about our community, and you sort of pick and choose which of those 8 domains you want to focus on and say, and we might do transportation really well, and so we're going to focus on something else, that kind of thing, and then you sort of develop a plan. So after you assess, you come up with a plan and say, okay, given what we know about transportation in Scituate, these are some reasonable things that we think we can plan for. And given our, whatever group is assembled, we think that we've got some people in the room who can help us do these things. And then you implement those plans. And so you can sort of see that it's, it is just a planning process essentially, and it involves community planning, but I think what makes it a little unique is that it engages people who aren't necessarily always engaged in thinking about senior issues.
Right.
And you're having conversations, we know aging affects public works, whether they think about it or not in that way, thinking about parks and rec and other departments and things like that, and other organizations really.
Yeah.
It is, so I guess, we've been talking a lot about the senior center building and the plans for that, and I think that this framework and this concept and model sort of reminds us that it's more, that's a really important part of a community, but it's also, there's more to it than that, and that, as a community for us to think about what else we do and how do we sort of maintain age friendliness.
Yeah.
So, so the other things in your packet, which I'm not going to go into any detail, there's one that's a checklist that the World Health Organization puts out that gives you a sense of the kinds of things that a community can do to be age-friendly. It's by no means required of any of those things. It's just to give you a sense. And then the other is just sort of a detailed description of each of the domains. So things, for example, when we're talking about housing, we're not just talking about, yes, we need to build more senior housing. It also includes things like helping people modify their existing housing so that they can stay there safely. Sort of different models of co-housing and shared housing, that kind of, it's a little bit deeper than just, do we have senior housing, yes or no, kind of thing.
Transportation, for instance, which I think we're doing well with, but been some recent comments and concerns about even driving for older adults in town. I mean, everybody knows the nuances of their own towns, where it's not perfect or where it's hard, and we talk about, of course, where the senior center's going, and that Beaver Dam intersection. But it's something that we would like to bring to others who can do something about it, maybe and change it, whether it's Public Works, DPW, the police, and that some traffic concerns exist for seniors driving. So it isn't even just public transportation or hours or doesn't exist, it's really just getting around town.
Exactly.
Walkability,
it includes
of course,
walking
also.
and biking, although there's debate about whether that goes in outdoor spaces or
Yeah.
not. But yeah, the outdoors, includes our public buildings, accessible for people with disabilities and people who use assistive devices. Do benches, are there benches along walkways? Do those benches have backs to them?
Right.
That kind of thing, safety of sidewalks and things like that. So, I present all this to you just briefly to kind of give you a sense of what it is and what it means, and to think about it as something that we may want to consider and just kind of gauge your interest a little bit. Does anyone have any questions?
I know I've asked this before.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in your opinion between the World Health Organization and AARP?
Yes.
Okay, and what would that be?
Um,
That would benefit us as a community?
So for one
Necessary?
thing, you don't have to do any network. You don't have to join any network
Right.
at all. You can just kind of go off and do your own thing. I know Dedham is doing that. There's a couple of other communities around Massachusetts that are just going on their own, and there's nothing wrong with that. The benefits to joining a network, in addition to the public recognition component, which sort of I think is a good buy-in generator.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to have a public event and really raise some awareness. I think that's the other thing that this framework does, is that it gives whoever the lead organization is, whether it's the senior center or not, or another organization, it gives it brings it to the forefront of the conversation in the community. So you're just sort of able to raise awareness about what does a senior center even do, and to have conversations with people who aren't necessarily always engaged and understanding what those things are. So as far as the networks, the World Health Organization network is pretty relaxed in the sense that once you apply and become part of the World Health Organization network, the only requirement is that once a year you submit something to their online portal, which is just to sort of indicate that you're doing something, you're active at all. So whether that's we had an event or we put in some new benches or whatever it is, they just require that you show some level of engagement. And that's it. And so the benefit there is that you get connected with, whenever I put this slide together, there was 37 countries and 380 cities worldwide.
For World Health.
For the World Health. And so you would get access to their documents. So
Right.
I know Brookline is in the World Health Organization network, so you would be able to look at all their reports, all of their activities, get ideas about what other communities are doing, that kind of thing.
Excuse me, JT, would the Rotary be connected with World because of the polio? I wonder if their members look into that.
Yeah.
Because we work with them on polio. Okay.
Yeah. And then the AARP model is a little bit more structured. So that is you apply, and once you've applied, you're on sort of a 5-year timeline with them, which essentially means that at the end of that 5 years, you're expected to have implemented something. And I think the whole purpose of the model, it's broad and it's
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
and it's intended for communities to take this framework and say, like I just said, sort of what do we do well and what don't we do well, and go from there. So you're maybe not talking about so it's not uniform across.
Right.
And so they don't expect you to, improve every aspect of all 8 domains at once. But so that AARP process, there's a little bit more of a check-in, an annual, I think it's an annual just sort of progress check-in type of thing. But again, you get access to, and I don't know offhand how many U.S. communities, but there's many of them. And it's sort of happening in Massachusetts rapid fire at the moment. And so you would get access again to sort of being able to see those. They have a lot of resources online. AARP does public resources. So you would get access to all of that as well.
So, Caitlin, you mentioned, my next question would simply be, off the top of your head, what other communities might be biting off on this? And you mentioned Dedham and Brookline. Anybody else?
Brookline was one of the first.
Yeah,
Yarmouth
Brookline
did
was-
it a couple of years ago.
Yarmouth Yarmouth, Salem, I'm trying to think.
Who reported at the conference, but they did it a little differently.
Yeah, Newton is doing age-friendly, Boston is a big example of age-friendliness. Out in the Berkshires, they have a county level version, so instead of individual municipalities, they're taking a county approach because they have sort of regional transportation. The communities up on Cape Ann, so Gloucester, Rockport, Manchester, and Essex are doing age-friendly. Salem, yeah, I mentioned Salem already. So anyway, so it's and there's probably several that are doing it.
People are
Right.
talking about it
Right.
and looking into it and starting it.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Right.
there's certainly a lot of people thinking about it.
Right.
So anyway, so I think it's, and I think we've talked before too about the timing of it and sort of thinking about it as we're
Yeah.
thinking about a new senior center and thinking about having to talk to the community about what's going on with relation to seniors in Scituate. that something like this could be sort of a broader, bigger picture
Yeah.
version of what's important to seniors in Scituate,
Yeah.
including
Awareness,
the senior
recognition.
It certainly can help in the marketing of a new senior center.
Yeah, well, I think it's also
Bottom
just,
line.
yeah, sometimes I laugh because it is sort of, to me, I talk about it a lot and it's sort of a common sense approach, it really is, when you look at those domains, it's sort of like, transportation, housing, respect,
I know.
and
Yeah.
social participation.
Yeah.
Really ingenious, and
Yeah.
so, but it really that it's a reminder that as a, the way we treat our seniors is an indicator of our community more broadly. And then it also, does emphasize a lifespan approach, that a sidewalk that's good for a wheelchair is good for a baby carriage, and that kind of, just a people-friendly community.
Yeah.
So,
I think kind of program is exactly what this community needs, and maybe there are maybe Cohasset and Marshfield. I mean, would there be any disadvantages of joining it with a couple of other communities with an effort like this?
I don't think so. I think the only challenge to that is that,
Coordination.
at some point, there's an
Right.
implementation process, so
Right.
thinking about, if
What
for,
we need and
Well,
what
individual
they-
towns.
yeah, they would make decisions about that. I know
Yeah.
Cape Ann, because they're taking they are taking a regional approach to it, because they have their transportation, the CADA, Cape Ann services all four of those communities, and that they're close and they share a lot of other things. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, when they want to actually make change, it has to happen at the individual community level, because that's where change happens. So I think as long as you maintain the engagement of those individual parties in terms of the leaders and the senior centers and in those individual communities, and you maintain them, making sure that they know what's going on, I don't see why it wouldn't be an issue. It's just it's a catalyst for a lot of cool things to happen. I mean, I think
Yeah.
when everything that the senior center does now is age friendly. And there's probably lots of other things outside the senior center.
And it dovetails with a lot of what either the economic development, the cultural district now, or
Right.
Yeah,
transportation,
right.
safety contracts.
right.
Yeah.
Broadens our scope.
Yeah, I think, it sort of recognizes that aging impacts the community more than just the senior center.
Yeah.
I think-
Well, there's a lot of parts to the community, and we want youngsters to be appropriately dealing with seniors and vice versa, so, and be aware of each other, so.
Right, right.
Any,
I guess that whatever the steps are to move ahead with it, I think we should move ahead with it. I'd be
Yeah.
happy to help. Whatever
Yeah.
you need help with,
Yeah.
Linda obviously was good as well.
Yeah, we can certainly talk about what some of the first steps would be. I think, certainly pulling together some people who would be, part of a steering
Right.
committee or
I-
to at least start that. It's one of those kind of committees where I think you add to it as you.
Right.
Oh, the more people we can sort of get involved
The
that
better.
aren't working with us directly already would be
Yeah.
nice, that we
Right.
know,
Yeah.
but, to have them on board and some things with us.
Because I think when you go to the town and you say, okay, this is something we want to do, you want to be able to show, look at, we've banded together this group of people who've all sort of said, yeah, I'm interested in participating in this. And the next thing we would need is so you want to go to them with something, and a little bit of a sense of what our process will be. But yeah, I think
I mean, I'm on board with it also. I think it's a very positive awareness and recognition step for the community,
Yep.
so. I'm not sure how to sort of move it forward.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I planned on it, like I said, it was one of my goals anyway, so working with Caitlin or working with the board is
Or
nice
building a
because it will help.
Building a steering committee,
Mhm.
okay?
But we need a letter for the town.
Yeah, maybe we can even just start having some, just initial conversations with people about, this is, we're thinking about doing this is what it kind of means, would you be interested in participating, and just kind of get some first responses. And then, when is the new town administrator starts in January?
Yep.
Yes.
January 2nd.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions or?
No, I just think it's great, and maybe with Thompson to interview her or whatever, to get a nice story there.
Sure. Okay.
Be my press secretary.
Another thing on the list.
Yeah, I know.
Very good. Well, we appreciate your expertise here, and we're it's positive. It's a positive step.
Yeah,
It's a
great.
positive process. So, I'd like to try to do that.
All right.
Subcommittee reports.
I have one.
Okay.
I'll have to go very quickly.
We'll start with
because
Lucille.
I'm running at the time, and thank you very much. And probably this is moot compared to, I mean, we all have to dovetail with our situations. I made some copies if anybody is interested. I'll read it real quickly. We met the 7th of December, Helen, Gordon, Linda, and myself. Discussions took place with the subcommittee members reporting that they have been, sort of what Betty has said, that they have been fielding inquiries from members in the Scituate community who are asking about the status and plans for the unused Gate School building. So that's out there. We also discussed the many plans and input by different professionals regarding the proposed center and the amount of money spent over the years, because this has been going on a long time about the center. Our members decided to hold off on planning informational sessions and fundraising about the new site of the senior center to be determined somewhere on the Gates School property. We thought meeting with the new project manager for this project is imperative, and our hope is to include certain members of the board to meet regularly with him or her. Unless there are concrete talking points on the subject, the committee will focus on how to market the importance of seniors remaining involved and busy. We will be highlighting all activities of the Scituate's present senior involvement, draw awareness to the community at large on the importance of attending activities, programming, so what we're saying, internet, educational and social interaction. We also need to include the numbers of the growing senior population, which we have right here, thank you, Caitlin, and the present figures of how many are seniors, what they're attending the programs here. We also plan to, via photos and stories, social media, newspaper articles, events, meet with community groups like FOSS to understand, let everyone know the importance and the need to expand our space due to whatever we propose, to tell them how many people are being involved. We went into specifics, suggestions, strategies and events. Mentioned that we would contact Les Ball to learn how he proceeded with marketing the need for the new library. Contact Tom Clark, I just saw him the other day, to help develop ways to market these needs. Doug Trudeau, or maybe talking about a theater program event. I noticed you had mentioned the walk. We talked about the walk and a marathon. Also connect with Bill Richter, music director for programs with the students. Repeat the Irish program, which you had mentioned. We had that the Magician. That was a nice, successful party. And explore the military band or Army field band or vocal ensembles to perform at the Performance Center. We will schedule our meetings after the next meeting in January. We plan to, from then on, meet regularly prior to the board meeting so that we can follow in on our, we can tell you about how we're moving forward. My two members that were there, do you want to add to what we talked about? In other words, we just felt there's so many questions coming our way about the empty building that we thought we need to talk about how important it is, just like what you're saying, how important it is for activities to get involved, rather than be more specific as far as where we are with the site. And I don't know, let's open it up.
Anybody else?
No?
Anything to add with what we talked about?
You covered everything.
I don't know where we're going, but I really think there's a lot of information that you're giving us tonight that we could get on board with, and at least start by telling really telling them about the need for this building that we want, and the importance of staying involved at any age, and keeping the seniors busy. I mean, I worked with recreation, and in nursing homes it's tough because they're pretty compromised, and yet I used to kill myself trying to get them involved.
Yeah.
I think I remember taking them to fly kites. Could you imagine how crazy I was down Peggy Beach? Anyway, I'm excited about what you have to say.
Yeah.
And I think we could all get on that initiative. Right?
Great.
Okay, that's it for me.
Advisory and long-term planning, I can hop in if you guys don't want to. So we met, and by the way, our next meeting is January 4th, back at the library. In some degree, we covered a lot of the things that have already been on the table tonight. Number one was the indecision around, and uncertainty around the Gates development and being on top of the process and involved in the process and moving forward and trying to squeak out definitions and decisions as we move forward on all that. And number two really was, we started to talk to Caitlin a little about recognizing Scituate as a community that's age-friendly, senior-friendly, people-friendly.
We come up with a catchy name.
Right, and so we sort of had two topics of conversation. One was Gates, one was an age-friendly community and how to build that around, and she just made that presentation. And then, I guess third was also to kind of drill down and try to uncover any trends that are happening for aging so that we can bring those to the table. So, I don't know if either of you had more to add to that.
No, I think, in line with what you talked about was, sort of in addition to just the communication about the importance of what the senior center does and just generally what's important for seniors, but also the message, I think we talked about the need, we're gonna need to develop some kind of message about the plan for the building and what we need some more information before we can do that.
Right.
Exactly, that was the conclusion we came to.
And Maud, who's here tonight, was also at
Yep.
the meeting. And,
Yep.
I think she'll be able to be very helpful with our efforts and work
That's
with
right.
Caitlin as well, and
Yep.
had some good ideas as well, so I think we got a good start.
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing, we really have to get all our ducks lined like when presenting to the board, or even going out and talking
About this.
Yeah, because that will then help with
Right.
the senior center, that will,
Yeah.
we'll have data and statistics on how to get that senior center,
Yeah.
but we need to do that marketing first.
Yep. Okay. Was there any other subcommittee? Was there a budget meeting?
No.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody, so no other committee reports? Any old business on the table that we haven't talked about, or new business on the table that we want to bring up?
I've got some new I want to bring up.
Gordon?
Try to do it in 5 minutes or less. I had an opportunity to meet with two selectmen this week as Gordon Price, resident 48 Main Road, not Gordon Price, vice chair of the Council on Aging. And when I was offered those opportunities, I said, yeah, fine, I'll do that. So, and as a result of those two meetings they had, I'm going to have a motion in a minute. I want to explain a little bit about the motion first. And a lot of it is along the lines of what Betty has said, and what Lucy has said, and what JD has said. There is a lot of uncertainty out there. And I tried to explain that, we were now in a position, the large we, of trying to market a senior center when there was one big elephant in the room, being the Gates building, and that would really, hamper Foss's opportunities to raise money. We'll have we're gonna need a significant fundraising effort, maybe not $1 million fundraising effort, but something significant, and people have been working very hard to achieve that, and then just not only the fundraising, but the actual education of people, because one of the first things they're gonna say, people out there, they come in and say, how did we get into this position? How did you guys get into this position? What are we gonna do about it? So, I think I hope my motion tonight will maybe be helpful to try to clarify a little bit about how I think we can get there. I really believe the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we've got to be the squeaky wheel, fortunately or unfortunately, because if we just kind of sit back and let things happen, they'll probably happen, but they'll happen over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I think we've already been able to move the selectmen.
Right.
Or at least we've been able to move the thinking of where we want this project to go a little bit quicker already. I think, there wasn't nothing considered to be for spring town meeting, I think up until maybe a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, so we're at least getting that far. So My motion will be to send a letter to the selectmen, not anything derogatory or controversial, but just kind of let them know what our sentiments are here as a board, if you so agree. So I'd like to just maybe read the letter to you, and this doesn't have to be the letter, but this is just, kind of the idea that I had. So, it's real quick. It says, the decision of the Board of Selectmen to locate a new senior center on the Gate School property has resulted in concerns that we would like to bring to your attention. As part of our efforts to educate the Scituate residents as to the need for a new senior center, it would assist us in our efforts if we had a specific plan as to the location of the site and an architectural rendering of the proposed building. Of greater assistance would be a defined direction as to the future use or non-use of the Gates building. Fundraising and getting community support for a new center are directly related to this issue. And this next piece was specifically recommended to me by the two people that I spoke with. Moreover, as a project director manager is chosen, we request that the Council on Aging director and 2 Council on Aging members be appointed to the search committee to review, select an architect for initial building design renderings with voting privileges. And that was afforded to, I don't know who the organization was, but with the building, or with the safety complex building, I don't know if they were policemen or firemen, but they were allowed to have voting privileges on the public building committee when those decisions were being made. So, and it was recommended to me that we submit that, specifically that request, at least this request, to them, so that, they understand that we've all mentioned to them in private or in public last week or last month when JD was here, we want to be involved in the process. So I think we just need to keep pushing that we want to be involved in the process, because that's going to be very important. And getting back to the Gates issue a little bit, ask for a motion on a letter. My thought was, and I couldn't conceive why we needed a manager at this point in time. We don't have a plan. But apparently the process is that the first thing you do, and this was explained to me, I understand it now, that you hire the manager. The manager then is involved in the selection process and the interview process, hopefully along with maybe a few other people, and hopefully, as I said, us included is what I'm asking for here, to select an architect for initial renderings. So that's really important that we get that entree in, and then it be a voting, have the same equal vote as any of the members on the public building committee would be. But so getting back to my next question. Okay, so we need a project manager, and we're in the interview process for again the collective we. We're in the interview process for an architect. To my way of thinking, sometimes it's not right, many times it isn't, but to my way of thinking, an architect is going to look at that plot plan and say, okay, you want me to develop a senior center here or there somewhere, but what about this building that sits out here that's taking up, a third of the property on that plan? What are your plans for it? They can sit there and say, I don't know. So my thinking is maybe this process is going to force them a little bit to make a decision on what's going to happen to that building. We're probably not going to have a whole lot to say about it as a group or even as individuals, but I think it may force the issue a little bit sooner than what they would like to. And I know that Rec is moving in there, and I think I was told that there's another public health, or
Town hall.
into, huh?
No, the fire station.
I'm sorry, that's right, the public health is it?
The fire station.
They're probably going to be going into the old fire
Yeah.
station, so there's going to be a little bit of renovation that's going to be done there.
Yep.
There was some other group that was going to be going into it, occupying a little bit of Gates. So anyway, but I don't think the community wants to see Gates left empty. We have to pay to heat it, to secure it, to insure it, and everything else. And, so I think there are a number of things that are going to be happening that are really going to force that issue a little bit sooner than what maybe they would like to or would hope to in terms of what's going to happen with Gates. So
And perhaps in a more public forum, as part of a commission discussion, then it would appear their prior decision.
Ought to be able to start-
They've made that the case. I mean, that as a result of their choice here, they've made that the case. I think it has to
I mean, if you just want to say a building, the center, the senior center building on that property, certainly is gonna impact on the footprint of the Gates building itself.
For sure.
You know, I mean, so it's almost like it's the cart before the horse.
I know.
That's
I know.
such an important
Yeah.
key piece.
So how can
for
you
the-
design access,
Yes.
egress, parking, and everything else if you don't know what's gonna happen with this monstrosity?
And I'm sure the new person's gotta ask that question right out of the gate.
So that's what I say, I think it may force the issue, but anyway,
Let's
so.
have a sense,
I, do I make the motion? Send a letter to the selectmen, I want to find if somebody, does somebody else want to make a motion to, and, you know.
on the agenda.
Well, we want to, I think we want, I think we want to think about it and take consideration of the actual letter itself, maybe, and,
Yeah, I'm not saying that this has to be the wording. I'm saying, I think we need to encourage them that, or let them, they kind of know that there are issues with the decision-making, but again,
yeah, we want to be involved.
we need to be involved.
And it-
Well, we are assured of that at this point without having been at the table yet, but that's what I'm told. That's what
But
I'm told.
again, I was told in those specific terms, you need to let us know in formal way that you want representation when all this happens. So if you don't want to do the A part, I think at least the B part where we're asking for inclusion into any of the searches with voting privileges, I think.
I think we should send a letter.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we don't need a motion. I don't know.
Make a motion to
I
send a
don't
letter.
think you need,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I just want to make sure what we're saying, if and when we submit a letter, says what we want it to say.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I guess I'd say how can we continue to flesh this out and define it to make sure we got it right?
What part of it didn't you, what part were you uncomfortable with?
Just sitting and thinking about it and reading it as opposed to having it read to me.
Yeah, having it printed in front of you.
Yeah.
On
Okay.
the copies,
Some
everybody
quick draft.
can think about it for the next.
After you review it, you should send it.
I mean, if you're saying as a
After you
board as
review
opposed
it,
to as
you
board
should send it.
price, but if you're saying as a board, it's not on the agenda, so my feeling is just
Yeah.
that's
Right.
going beyond what is legitimate.
No, I don't want to send it under my name. That's useless.
No, it's pretty.
If we, get everybody a copy before you leave tonight.
Yeah.
Be more assertive.
Uh,
Well, let's get copies, let's revisit,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, because, you know, Linda said the timing, I thought the timing window was that they were closing that,
December
the
20th.
RFQ would be December 20th for the project manager,
But
but,
I'm not positive about
Yeah.
that
Sounds like
because
that's
it didn't, it wasn't exactly out when it was
Hmm.
supposed to be out.
yeah.
I think they only need 2 weeks, but still.
Yeah.
Okay,
My thought.
It's a good idea.
I guess I would just say, let's flesh it out and move it forward.
Yeah.
But let's flesh it out with copies and so we can edit it and read it
Yeah.
and add to it or come back and build something,
Okay. Sounds good.
okay?
So you're gonna send it via email?
Hmm?
You're going to send it via
Oh,
email?
maybe we can do that.
Yeah.
Can we read a review of it, you can send that by email? Yeah.
Right.
You know, edit it, change it,
Yeah,
Yeah,
add to it, make suggestions, whatever.
I think 2 members of the board you suggested should be at all these meetings to see what's going on. You should have some input.
Say again?
I said,
Or,
we should have 2 members, at least 2 members, go to the meetings to see what's going on.
Well, it was proposed to be
Yeah.
1 member and me, so.
One member, or how about 2?
I don't know.
That's the majority.
Or 3.
They might not want it.
But
Right.
I think we should get involved.
oh, yeah, oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
no, there'll be a public meeting, so we'll all be able to attend,
Right.
anyone will be able to attend, but I think we need to have people
Right,
on the,
see it on the table.
on the table.
I think the letter was really good, thank you.
So do I.
Very good. Does anyone else have anything else? Well, I want to wish everyone a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas, et cetera, et cetera. And enjoy your time with family and friends. We will meet again on January 11th next year. So, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second? Very good, thank you.